Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Voice of the Valley, which is for the people, by the people of our Shenandoah Valley. My name is Charles, and I'm here, your host today. I want to introduce someone that has intrigued me tremendously, and that's our Chief Sheriff, Mr. David Shaw.
Nice to meet you, sir.
Yes, sir. Of Waynesboro. Today we will be discussing topics of interest to the public in the Shenandoah Valley. So let's jump right into it and let's find out some information that will intrigue us and help us move forward. So, Mr. Shaw, describe, and seriously, this is important, the Waynesboro Police Department's values and how they are reflected daily by our public servants.
Sure. So first, thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. I'm excited to do that. So when we talk about the Waynesboro Police Department, one of the things that we always strive for is our values and the culture of this organization, because that is how we police with the community. And I think that's very important to distinguish. Our department polices with the community. We don't police the community. So with that, what we look at for our morals, values, ethics, and our character in terms of what we look for in the employees and how we foster that culture with how we police is we want individuals that follow the law, we do the right thing, we strive to do the right thing, we hold ourselves accountable if we fall short of that standard, and we want to make sure that our individuals that work here, whether it's a police officer or another role that we may have here at the department, we want good, loyal, dependable employees that have a good moral compass. I think that that's very important.
Yes.
In terms of the type of employee that you have, especially given the role that we have in local government.
Yes.
We want individuals that when we have them interacting with the community, it doesn't even have to be through an enforcement role. A lot of this job is about those relationships.
Yes.
Everything that we do, especially when we are such a public face of local government, is we want individuals that have that ability to be compassionate and have human capabilities of not being robotic.
Yes.
That they are able to interact with folks. And that's everybody from all different backgrounds, all different walks of life. A lot of times, obviously, our role that we do as police officers, we're probably encountering individuals that aren't having the best of days,
yes,
or it may be the worst moment in their life, or it's a crisis. And it's our job, first and foremost, to try to help that individual. Now, of course, our role as law enforcement is we enforce the laws, but a lot of sometimes what we do also involves education.
Yes.
And I think that you have to have as an organization a healthy balance between education and enforcement.
Yes.
Now sometimes the two concepts may marry together, but a lot of times being realistic, setting the expectations and goals, and whether it's through an education standpoint, an enforcement standpoint, or a balance in between, you have to have employees that understand and recognize the difference and also the importance of both together.
Good.
And I think that that helps to foster that culture of treating people right, being respectful. Maybe we're not being reciprocated by it, but some of that is also the nature of the business.
Yes.
But you can still be decent to people.
Yes.
And that
Very
I think is testamental to what we strive to do here.
Excellent. I love it.
Yes, sir.
Second thing, what does the police department see as some of the most prevalent issues in our community right now?
So if we talk about it, we can talk about it both through crimes, but also community needs and assessment. You know, drugs and alcohol abuse is obviously a prevalent issue in communities. And of course, depending on those situations can also lead to other more criminal issues such as theft, trespassing, drug possession crimes.
Yes.
And you also have, right now, there's a lot of internet crimes. You know, we've talked and our agency has been featured recently in certain outlets talking about the increase that we see here in internet crimes, specifically when it comes to child exploitation.
Yes.
We've seen an uptick in that, and a lot of it has been because of the generation of technology and the
Yes.
use of AI. these algorithms that are out there that detect it and then send it to us for further investigation. Doesn't mean every one of them is indeed that, but it could be, and that's our job to investigate it and make that determination.
Wow.
Another thing that's not criminal related, but mental health. Mental health has become very prevalent in communities all around the last few years in particular. But mental health, while not a crime, a lot of times the initial response to it, because it's an individual in crisis, may be from the police department responding. And with that, there's a lot of factors that go into it. Could be, just providing some kind of assistance or referral, or it may become a process that becomes more formal through the laws that might result in emergency custody order, a temporary detention order. All of that can be very labor intensive, time intensive, and it's also it's a lot of emotions into it. Not only for the person that has called or is in crisis, but the officer is also going through some of those emotions too, trying to work with an individual, and sometimes that person may have a difficult time understanding or processing what it is that's happening. So going back to like what we talked about before, having officers that can demonstrate you can do your job, but you can still be compassionate doing it. You can be direct, but you can still be human. With that, those mental health, there's a lot to it. There's a lot of moving parts.
Yes, especially in this day in our society today.
Yeah.
The mental health is going out the blocks. It's serious.
Yep. Yeah. So those are three major areas. We, of course, if you want to talk about Waynesboro itself, and it's growing. There's more cars on the road. There's more people that come in and out of the city, whether new residents, old residents, or people that either work here, travel here, vacation here. We see a lot more traffic on the roadways. If you look at some of our data, depending on the year, traffic fluctuates up and down in terms of enforcement and crashes and stops and citations. That traffic is something that we hear pretty common about here in Waynesboro, whether it's requests for extra patrol or more of directed enforcement because of identified areas that are having problems with speeding or other traffic-related violations.
That's interesting. That's good. That's good. Yeah. And then, this is good. And I like this question here. And this is really important, I think. And you say this. Not everyone wants to become a full-time police officer. Not everyone. And that's understandable.
Right.
Because your job is a serious job. And in our society today, it can seem like it gets scarier every day. You just never know what that police officer's mind, what's on his mind, and as you say, compassion or whatever. Sometimes it goes out the back door, and then they get stigmated as far as the way, and that's not the case all the time. But people may still want to help the department and make a difference. As you had said to me, and I wonder, what opportunities are available in the police department for those people?
Sure. So, of course, first, we still have some openings for police officers, so individuals that may be interested in seeing what that may look like or pursuing the start of a potential career as a police officer, those are always encouraged to contact us and we can have that conversation. But as you mentioned, there's a lot of ways that you can serve your community. And you don't necessarily have to don the full uniform and the gun and the badge to do that. Some opportunities that we have here, especially that have become even more important in the last few years, is finding individuals in the community that may want to come in and help us in the support roles, but not necessarily have to worry about donning the enforcement side of it. So one of the programs that has come up in the last few years that's available because the state has set that certification level is they have different levels of auxiliary programs. And one of the ones that we have been trying to set up and also get individuals into this program, it's called a Level 3 Auxiliary Officer. And what that specifically is it's someone that they're specialty sworn for a very limited scope. It's traditionally not in an enforcement role. It's unarmed, but these are individuals that could go through the process to come here on a voluntary basis and be an auxiliary officer to assist us a lot in the office with support roles, whether that may be paperwork, assisting with processing, answering return phone calls, found property, but also taking it outside the department. We do a lot of special events here in the community, a lot of community events that are resource intensive for the department, and so this person can also help fulfill those roles by not only serving as somewhat of an ambassador from the department, but also the ability to perhaps help us with traffic control or being a source of information at an event, or being able to be a liaison between us and the department, all for the betterment of fostering those community relationships and positive interactions that we strive for.
That's interesting. That's interesting because, to be truthful about it, the public doesn't even know anything about that.
Correct. It's pretty new.
Yeah. And you was telling me the last time we had spoke for a quick minute about, is that the programs that you're saying that you're trying to develop, or what you're going to come into effect? Because you was talking about some jobs that's going to become available that you was trying to maybe look for some people.
Sure. So one of the trends that we're seeing in law enforcement nowadays is there's many different ways that law enforcement can serve roles in the community. Not all of them require to have a full-fledged police officer to respond. There's a lot of roles that can be fulfilled, and one of our goals that we've been working on the last few years here at the department is creating an ancillary layer of support staff, both sworn, specialty sworn, or non-sworn, so that way we can free up our police officer resources to be more available for emergency calls for service, public safety and order, and also for those emergent responses that need a police officer there immediately. These other roles can fill in and still provide services, but it's more of the non-emergent or maybe even non-criminal roles that still need some type of response or assistance, but it doesn't necessarily need that police officer. We've also looked at, and we're in the process right now, hiring a public safety aide, which would be an unarmed role, a specialty sworn that's a little bit of a myriad of like a parking enforcement officer, but also can do some of those roles as a level 3 auxiliary would do, where they can help with taking found property reports, lost property. If there's a disabled vehicle, they have a vehicle that can respond. It doesn't have police lights in it, but it has amber warning lights that they can go and assist motorists that may have broken down, or if we need some kind of traffic control, a special event. We also have an auxiliary program it's called Level 2 Auxiliary Police Officers. These are sworn armed police officers. They go through the similar training and processes as a full-time police officer, but they do it on a voluntary basis. That program we're revamping. It's very difficult, and we encourage applicants, but we also understand and recognize the commitment at that level is pretty intense, because most individuals that come to volunteer their services traditionally also already have secured full-time employment. So the demand of going and working your 40-hour week at your job, and then also on top of that trying to do essentially a full-time police academy on a part-time basis, and working under those timelines, and then the follow-up and the on-the-job training that goes with that is pretty tall task to ask of individuals. And that's why we focused on this level 3, because on average it's only about 6 to 8 weeks. It has a fraction of the training that is needed because of the scope of the responsibilities. So that's something we're working on. Another aspect of volunteer service that we're looking at here, we have a department chaplain program, and we have 3 chaplains right now that are here. They provide spiritual guidance, faith, and support, not only for our staff, but also for the community, especially in times of crisis. One of the problems that we've had the last few years is it's a lot of these chaplains and ministers at their church or wherever they may serve, that's oftentimes too a full-time job or a highly committed job. So trying to find individuals that are available for that support role during daytime or sometimes even early evening. So we have that opportunity here as well. We also have internship programs here. We offer those mostly to higher level high school, like junior, senior, college, or even graduate school. We do a lot of networking. As a matter of fact, we just did a job fair yesterday at Mary Baldwin.
Did you?
But we're trying to find individuals that may be interested in law enforcement, and we offer an internship program that brings them here. It's a structured program, and allows them to go through the different facets of the department for that learning experience. But it's also a great way to segue into potentially our level 3 program, because you may have an individual that just graduated high school, is about to graduate, isn't sure if this is what they want to do, but they get that exposure. And they also, whether it's this career that they pick or they want to go into something else, it helps to build some of that skills building, discipline, and also gets, if they're interested in something within their community, perhaps they get the opportunity to learn about their community through a different scope.
Okay, now, David, your brother's going to put you on the spot.
Okay.
And we can edit this, but I want to know.
All right.
Right now in our society, we have a lot of young people that's going into jails and then coming out and then they're lost.
Okay.
Someone would love to be able to have the opportunity to change their life. You know, and not even just young people, some other people. So what do you have any type of programs that can help, you know, if they want to possibly, because they can probably make a big difference.
Sure.
You know, and not just that, knowing that they've been into the system even deeper than the people that have never even been in the system.
Right.
You see the knowledge,
Yep.
you know, and understanding, you know, makes a big difference.
Yep.
You know, is there a program or is there a limit to that? You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
You know, do you have a cutoff, or, you know, what do they have to do? Jump through the sand?
So, as far as if somebody wants to be a police officer, and we talk about if they've had some sort of involvement in the criminal justice system, if they're a convicted felon, chances are they're still prohibited from carrying a firearm, so that takes it out as far as eligibility. However, you know, individuals sometimes make choices in their lives that took them down the wrong path, but they're back on the right one. So as far as any programs here, some of the ones that we discussed, it would be situationally dependent on perhaps what has happened that we take a look at. But one of the things that we're good about looking here is a big part of being a police officer or being involved in a police department or your local government is about fitment. And so where it's important that perhaps maybe you might not be the right fit here or for us, that doesn't necessarily mean that the door closes everywhere.
Good point.
And also, and it's not so much in our role what we do here as far as reentry programs or different types of probationary type assistance that maybe they get through different court systems or programs, but it all kind of interwebs together because, you know, whether it's us through community or outreach or different programs, you know, we partner with a lot of different organizations, both public and private, in the community, and sometimes our conversations or our interactions come together. So with what you asked about that involvement, I guess it kind of depends really on what the individual wants to do.
Individual cases.
What they want to do and what is their goal. And sometimes, depending on what it is, we may have to say no, or sometimes we just say maybe not right now. Because also, too, it doesn't have to necessarily be severe offenses or problems, but you know, if somebody has a few years, especially in their youth, where they've done some questionable activity, you know, they may just need that, like we refer to, time and distance, demonstrate pattern of behavior that has changed and is stable. So I would encourage individuals that are maybe looking to, whether it's our career path or something similar, or maybe even unrelated, is that demonstrate and commit to the change that you want to have in your life. I think that's very important.
So let's talk about you, David.
Okay.
Let's talk about you. Because I want to put a face to you.
Sure.
It's not just what you're answering these questions. Personally, what made you how long have you been in this particular field of interest?
Sure. So I got hired here in 2001, right out of college. I graduated.
Right out of college?
Yep. I graduated from James Madison University with a bachelor's. Yep. Okay. So I was a young, literally 20-year-old kid, and I knew I wanted to be a police officer, and Waynesboro gave me that chance. Awesome. And because of who I am and how I've been treated here in this community over almost my 24 years here now, I've stayed here. I've committed, I've worked hard for every step that I've gone through here, and so I'm one of several examples from this organization that I came in as a brand new 21-year-old recruit officer, and now I sit at the desk of the chief of police.
And that makes a big difference to people to hear that. You know, I mean, regardless of the facet, even to, in my opinion, even to a young man coming out of high school,
Yep.
not having to want, or think that he can't go through college,
Yep.
you know, because right now with the financial criteria is,
Yep.
Yeah. So that's great to hear.
Yep, and we have plenty of officers that are here that didn't go to college.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they went the military route, or maybe they didn't do anything related to law enforcement or military or college. This was just the job. They were maybe starting in one career field and made that pivot and wanted to try something out, and it worked out great. So where college used to be really stressed as one of the top priorities, it's a priority, especially if you want, I would say, education becomes more important the further that you want to go in your career. And there's a lot of educational opportunities within the scope of the work that we do. But, you know, going to college or obtaining certain degrees, those can definitely factor in, especially if you want to promote or advance within a department.
So so we have a lot of different things that go on in this area. You know, the library, not the library, but the theater and things of that nature. Let me ask you, so if you was to have a rally, how would that, I'm just asking, you know, a rally, an outside rally, what would I have to come to you and say, you know, Dave, I want to have a rally with this organization or something? Do you think, and I'm saying this because the way this world is today, you're kind of scared to have a rally anymore. You just never know. Do you give me police officers?
So,
or how does that work?
So it's situationally dependent. There's certain laws within city code that will narrate if somebody wants to gather, which is their First Amendment right to do so, which we strongly support. If somebody wants to gather, and whether you want to call it a gathering, a rally, a protest, whatever you want to call it, there's certain rules that are in place within city code. Some of those do require, depending on the size or where it's going to be organized, that it may require a permit. But that right to assemble is still protected. And one thing that we're really proud of here that we do is individuals that choose that they want to gather for whatever reason, and they go through that process. We always make contact with the organizer and let them know whether it's a parade, public assembly. We share with them kind of the rules and the balance and the laws. And it's not because we're trying to intimidate or scare anyone. It goes back to what I was talking about before. Here's our education portion, and working together and letting them know this is what you're allowed to do, this is what you're not allowed to do, and allow people to assemble and enjoy that First Amendment right that we all have.
That's great. I like hearing that because we're getting our society more, people are getting more into, you know, conglomeration.
Sure.
Now, I just want to ask you something now. Do you have a program where, like, for high school or high school students to go through that might be interested? You know, like a ROTC kind of program?
So years ago, we used to have an Explorer program.
Yeah.
We don't have that here anymore. One local option that is available is high school students can go to the Valley VOTEC program at the Woodrow Wilson campus in Fishersville.
Correct.
They have a criminal justice program which is designed to give a general overview and limited exposure through the school in terms of law enforcement, but also fields within that aren't necessarily even just police officer talking about crime scene, you know, investigators, stuff like that. And then going back to what I spoke about before, we offer an internship program here for students. But as far as an actual like ROTC style, you know, like our old Explorer program, we no longer have that here.
Okay. That was good. Anything that you feel that I might have missed or you might have missed for me asking you that I think would be pertinent, because this is not the only one we're going to do. We're going to, you know, I mean, but this is all new to all of us. For me to try to do what I'm trying to do, we will definitely refine it. It will get perfected.
No problem. No problem.
But is there anything you think that you want to tell the people of our valley that is pertinent for them to hear in reference with you? Is there anything?
So one thing is we're all a community together, and we police with the community, and we encourage folks to approach our officers, have conversations, ask questions. Don't be afraid of us. One of the things that I think is very important to recognize is even though we may wear this uniform because that is our job. We're still a human being and we're still an individual behind it.
Good.
The individual is what makes the difference. So a good or bad encounter can sometimes be dependent upon the uniform that the individual is looking at, but it's the individual behind it that makes the difference. And
Correct.
that's what we strive here is I want our individuals to make that difference.
Great.
A positive difference.
That's so important today.
Yep.
That's so important today because we've lost that, to it. I mean, not lost it, but to a certain degree. So I think we've done great today. When we went to Beyond the Call of Duty, you was on top of your game. You reminded me of me being in the service.
Yeah.
The way that way, I like that.
Well, I didn't get to the role I'm in by not knowing stuff.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But it is such an honor and a pleasure to be in your presence.
Thank you for the invitation. I really appreciate it.
And we look forward, and anything that I can do with this organization that I'm establishing, please do not hesitate to reach out and say, Charles, I got an idea.
Okay.
I got an idea, or I got something I think you might want to put on the podcast that could be advantageous to our valley.
Okay.
And the people in the valley.
Sure.
So let's go forward with that.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep. Thank you, sir.
That's a blessing.
Yes, sir.